Good evening.
Good evening.
So I kind of wish I'd done a video halfway through at the end of part one because there's just too much to talk about here, isn't there? It's just ridiculous. I didn't because we were having just such an engaging and engrossed and brilliant time watching it. And it is brilliant. And it is just opulent and just expansive and just...
Very long.
And very long, overlong probably, but we'll forgive it that because it's doing an awful lot of things all at once. And there's so much going on here, and it's just somewhat overwhelming. And it's quite telling how RTD is taking great pains at the start to explain everything that's going on and all that. And it's easy to forget. Was the first one the Christmas Day one, and this one the week later? I can't remember which way around it went, but whatever. You would get a lot of people watching this. And of course, the hook is that DT's going. So I'm going to talk about DT in the now traditional Ode to the Doctor, and I'll talk about everything else here. Whenever I think about John Sims' Master, I always think of Harold Saxon. And I always think about the line, the Master Race, which had me in fits again. I never think about Feral Master at the start of this episode, and oh my goodness, how amazing is that? I'd forgotten just how much Master Doctor time you get, especially in part one of this, and how desperate and how it really just feel like these are the same characters that were Pertwee and Delgado and Davison and Ainley. It's tangible that there's a sense of weight and history here, and it's just amazingly done. And John Sim, we only have had 5 episodes of John Sim as the Master here. Just what an impression he's left on the programme when you consider some of his forebears were in the programme again and again and again. And the sense of desperation and the drums and the bit when he keeps talking about food, it just is such a phenomenal performance. And it's the sort of performance, let's be honest, that this story needs because what happens at the end.
I think it's the sort of performance that Tennant needs against him as well, to get the gravitas.
Do you think that Tennant needs an actor to play off of that? Does any actor need an actor of that?
I would say so,
Yeah,
when it's this sort of like...
the importance of it, yeah. The other standout performance in all this, aside from DT, is Bernard Cribbins, who is just... I mean, I'm fully aware that whoever you are, you may not have the same affinity to Bernard Cribbins that I have and Libby has, and even my kids have, because he did old Jack Boat afterwards. But he is just one of these people, just with an energy and a presence that is just comforting and almost profound. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful soul. And he brings all that to Wilf. And to have that sort of companion, because we've had lots of sorts of companions of late, but one who, like Donna to a certain extent, forces the Doctor to adopt a sort of different mode. The bit in the cafe where the Doctor's sort of like, it's a bit of exposition, isn't it, really? But he's sort of offloading onto Wilf is so real. And the bits where they play around the idea of, if I was your dad. And then later on, Tennant says, and it's, feeling now, where he says, I'd be so proud if you were my dad. And this, it just throws this whole ridiculousness of this character into, which is tangible in the whole episode. He's 900 and something years old. And there's that beautiful line, you look like giants to me. And of course that plays into the end. And it's just, Bernard Cribbins is just funny and sad and joyful, and it's just astounding what an actor of that calibre can bring to Doctor Who. At the start, we've also got June Whitfield and the guy who was he in Are You Being Served? We're talking about top quality actors of old, comedy actors of old, but whatever. And that's beautiful, wonderful, and brings a smile to your face. We, of course, get Donna in a much reduced role, which is only appropriate, and Donna's mum, whose name I still can't remember, weirdly. And it's not going to crop up again for a long, long time, so I'm not going to worry about it. But again, there's a sense of closure there. Oh, that's going to flare up again. But there's a sense of closure there, and all that kind of stuff is beautiful. And it's just fabulous. And then we've got this ridiculous story. And it is ridiculous. And I'm not sure any of it hangs together. And it's almost the apex of RTD storytelling, which is great, big, magnificent moments strung together in weird, brilliant ways, and you just go with it, and everybody's the master, and then the Doctor's being wheeled down some steps, and then they're in a spaceship that looks suspiciously like the one from the Red Dwarf, and there's just so much constantly going on, these big images that just assail you constantly. And I think when you take a step back from it, you go, this makes no sense at all a lot of the time, and then you go, but I genuinely don't care. I'm not here for in this instance at least, I'm not here for a Moffatian, carefully constructed jigsaw puzzle of a story where everything clicks into place. No, what I want from this particular story at this particular time is a big, brash, self-indulgent celebration of the past 3 years, 4 years. And 5 years, actually. And I say that because, obviously, as much as it's the end of DT, this is the end of RTD, who we shall never see in the programme again. And
That's not true.
And the way that RTD has constantly had to up the ante, and now we arrive at this moment when the entire human race gets turned into the master. The way that he's continually, gone on about the last of the Time Lord. So what do? Obviously, we make the Time Lords the ultimate baddies in this particular story. The fact that he's gone out and got James Bond to play, of all people, bloody Rassilon, for crying out loud. I mean, we all suspected it back in the day when that footage dropped of Sim and Tennant and I was about to say Timothy Dalton, George Lazenby, all marching to I Would Walk 500 Miles, which is worth finding if you've never seen that. But it's just so big. And I'll level with you, there's aspects of this that are just, I think, are purely there for the moment. Like the TARDIS in the stained glass, all right? Beautiful idea, lovely image, just completely thrown away on this story because it looks good. And it does look good, and it's fine. The woman. Now, the woman is clearly coded as the Doctor's mother, and if not the Doctor's mother, then Romana. And it does feel somewhat wasteful in this to have that extra element in it. And I'm still not entirely sure. Was it purely there so Wilf brought the gun? Is that... It's an awful big idea, and it does feel to a certain extent, and I'm not knocking it because I've just had a great time watching it, it does feel to a certain extent like RTD's just going, oh, this idea, I had that idea, I might never get the chance to do this again, I'll chuck that in. Oh, I'll just chuck that in. Shimmer, chuck that in. All that. But I don't care. I don't care because... the programme's earned it, and we've earned it. We've sat and watched all of these. Tennant, Eccleston, everything before, and this just feels like a highly suitable rounding off of a very self-consciously defined era of this show, okay? And the show, as a show, is very confident it's going to go on and succeed, all right? Let's be honest. Nobody was particularly panicking when we found out who the new guy was going to be. But nonetheless, this is a rounding off and a big hoo-ha. Now, are we going to criticise the greatest hits package at the end? Are we really going to get that sniffy about it?
I'd criticise it.
Go on, why would you criticise it, Elizabeth?
Well, I'd criticise it for... Martha's story is ridiculous.
Martha and Mickey.
She suddenly picked up a gun and
yeah,
she
she
She's
doesn't...
the biggest drip The most wet.
She was a
lettuce.
doctor. Do you remember she was a doctor?
She wouldn't look twice at
Yeah. And Mickey.
Mickey,
Yeah.
ever, or a gun. So I thought that was stupid. But also I just think it's absolutely, I was going to swear, a very big swear then, a really ridiculous indulgence. None of the other doctors got to do it.
Yeah, that's
Why
very
does DT
true.
get to do it?
Why does DT get to do it? We'll talk about that in the next video maybe. But, you know, the Martha Mickey thing still, I didn't hate it quite as much as I did the first time around. It did feel a bit weird. I like Jack and Alonso. That tickles me. I obviously love the lottery ticket, but that's fine. That works in this story because Wilf's been there. You know, that's part of this story. The other things, Sarah stopping Luke getting from run over. Luke, right? All of you, don't look at your phone or be occupied. Phones are awful. Don't. Okay, but nonetheless, Sarah gets to say cheerio. We should really watch the Sarah Jane Adventures with DT in, because that would be nice. Should have done it before this actually, but
What
hey.
one's about DT?
Well, yes, we should really. I know.
I watched quite a lot of them.
I know. I quite like the Sarah Jane. I love Sarah Jane Adventures.
There's one that's in like a fun and fair type thing.
Yeah, with Bradley.
Absolutely freaking
Yeah,
terrified.
yeah. I forgot all those. And then, of course, we get to see Jessica Hines, which is great. I'm not knocking it. It did feel a little bit, this is not quite like the rest. But since I loved, yeah, I think so. I think it's earned, but as in the quality of human nature is so good and the performance of her was so good.
Also, he really loved that Renaissance woman.
Which Renee? Oh, Man in a Pompadour.
Yeah, and he didn't go back.
Yeah, there are many characters that you think, but nonetheless, I'm not going to knock it because I love Jessica Hines and I will watch her anything because I think she's brilliant. And then we see Rose. And it's a bit weird because Rose in that is supposed to be, 16? And she's clearly not 16. And Rose looks nothing like Rose when we first met her, and that's fine. But we get to see Jackie as well, and that's beautiful. And all that's overindulgent, but do you know what? I don't care. If you're going to nitpick that hard, I think that you're perhaps missing the point a bit. And I do appreciate that the episodes are probably a bit long, and they do feel a bit self-congratulatory, but screw it. It's flipping Doctor in it. We can do what we want. Anyway, as per tradition, I'm going to do another video talking about DT. But before I do that, may I just say, I like the look of this new Doctor. I
I do too.
I have a feeling, I have a sneaky feeling that this new Doctor might be my sort of Doctor. I'll level with you. I think there's some quality in this guy that might work for me. Anyway, there we go. Right. Enjoy whatever it is that you're doing right now. I feel quite churned up having watched that Doctor Who story. I thought it hit me in places that Doctor Who rarely hits me. And it was a potent thing. Beautiful stuff.